There is a moment that comes for almost everyone, usually late at night, sometimes in the car. You look at your life and think, why do I keep doing this to myself?
You know what you should do. You know what would be good for you. But something keeps pulling you back. The same habit, the same person, the same fear. That something is not a character flaw. Well, what is it then? Let's find out.
Welcome back to 10 Minutes with Jojo. Today we are going to start summarizing this beautiful and healing book called The Mountain Is You. So, this persistent roadblock we all seem to hit, it's not laziness, and it's definitely not weakness. It's self-sabotage. And in today's explainer, we're going to break down exactly what that means, and more importantly, how to beat it.
Part 1. What exactly is self-sabotage? You know, we usually picture self-sabotage as like deliberately blowing up your life or a massive project. But honestly, it's usually way quieter than that. The author, Brianna Wiest, defines it simply as what happens when your subconscious mind overrules your conscious intentions. Think about it. You consciously know you want to wake up early to work out, right? But then the alarm goes off and smack, you hit snooze. You might beat yourself up thinking, I'm just being lazy. But actually, you're hitting snooze because your subconscious genuinely perceives sleeping in as safer than getting up and facing the discomfort of change.
Listen, you are not broken. You just have two very different parts of yourself kind of battling it out for control. Your conscious mind, it wants growth, it wants that new career, the healthy routine, the amazing life. But your subconscious mind, it just wants safety. It desperately clings to the familiar, even if the familiar is making you totally miserable. And here's the kicker. Safety is going to win out over growth every single time, unless you take a step back and understand the underlying fear driving it.
Let's look at a super relatable example of this internal tug-of-war. Okay, say you decide to start a new business. You write up this fantastic plan, you're totally pumped, and you sit down to finally do the work. But suddenly, instead of tackling the project, you find yourself meticulously cleaning your house, organizing your closet, or binging a show. Why on earth do we plan for greatness, only to mysteriously avoid the work by scrubbing the kitchen instead?
Well, it's because self-sabotage is the symptom, not the problem. That avoidance behavior, the sudden cleaning frenzy, is just a symptom of a deeply absorbed, long-forgotten belief that's actually just trying to protect you. Your subconscious looks at that new business and sees a massive threat. It could be a fear of failure, or honestly, even a fear of success and being seen. Your self-sabotage is basically just a misguided bodyguard trying to keep you perfectly safe from those perceived threats.
All right, moving on to part 2. The mountain is you.
This is the core metaphor of the whole book, and it really shifts our focus from external excuses to internal accountability. Look, it is incredibly easy to point fingers, isn't it? We convince ourselves our real problem is a super demanding boss, an unsupportive partner, a rough childhood, or just the economy. But here's the hard truth. The obstacle is not out there. Those external things, they're just circumstances. The actual mountain you have to climb to get the life you want is made entirely of your own deeply ingrained patterns, your own fears, and your own learned reactions.
There's this pivotal quote from Wiest that just nails it. You are not just the climber, you are the terrain. Just let that sink in for a second. Every metaphorical sharp rock you trip over, every steep cliff that totally terrifies you, and every false summit that wears you out, it all represents a part of yourself that you just haven't taken the time to understand yet.
And that brings us to a kind of harsh but super necessary reality. You cannot climb a mountain you refuse to see. So many of us spend literal decades trying to bypass our mountains, right? We change jobs, we move to new cities, we jump into new relationships, just crossing our fingers that the obstacle will vanish. But it never works because the mountain moves with you. The only way forward is through understanding. You have to finally stop, turn around, and look at the mountain.
Which brings us perfectly to part 3, your emotional inheritance.
So how exactly did this giant mountain form inside us anyway? Well, we inherit way more than just our eye color or our height. We naturally inherit emotional patterns. Your emotional inheritance includes stuff like how your parents modeled handling anger, the exact ways your grandparents expressed love, and even the deep cultural fears and survival traits of your ancestors. If your absolute knee-jerk reaction to criticism is to instantly get defensive or just shut down, guess what? You didn't invent that reaction. You inherited it.
Wiest phrases it so brilliantly here. She says, you did not create your core beliefs. You inherited them. I really want this specific quote to just wash away any lingering sense of shame you might be feeling right now. You've probably spent decades thinking these restrictive emotional chains were just fundamental flaws in who you are, but they aren't. They're just inherited responses handed down by people who were, quite frankly, doing the absolute best they could with the tools they had at the time.
Now hold on, because it's absolutely crucial to understand that blame is just another mountain. This explainer is an exercise in deep self-awareness, not an invitation to go start blaming your parents. Blaming your family just keeps you stuck right at the bottom of the mountain. The real goal here is understanding. Because the exact second you understand the root origin of a pattern, you completely strip away its power to control you blindly.
And that leads us to part 4, freedom from the mountain.
Okay, so once we actually have this profound self-awareness, what do we do with it? Let's walk through these 3 vital steps as a little recap of our journey today. First, you've got to acknowledge the daily battle between your conscious desire for growth and your subconscious demand for safety. Second, realize that you are the mountain. We're shifting our focus entirely away from external blame. And third, recognize your inherited emotional patterns so you can finally start to prune them. Following these steps literally turns an impossible obstacle into a manageable map.
Now, managing all of this, it's like freedom wearing heavy clothes. It is so vital to remember that your emotional inheritance is absolutely not your fault. But managing it, examining it, and actively deciding which parts to keep and which parts to finally drop, that is entirely your responsibility. And yeah, I know, that responsibility feels incredibly heavy. But carrying that weight is the only path that actually leads to true freedom.
I want to wrap up with this incredibly beautiful thought on transformation. The mountain does not disappear when you climb it, it becomes part of your view. You see, you're not trying to become some totally different person. You're simply learning to understand yourself so you can stand on top of your history instead of being crushed by it. So be gentle with yourself today as you process all this. Next time, in part 2 of this explainer, we're going to explore the comfort zone trap and the surprising gift of fear. So until then, I want you to really ask yourself, what inherited belief are you finally ready to climb over and leave in your view?